Well, hello everyone and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement. The packages, the pile of packages. Let's just say it's getting pretty tall. Now, I don't want to complain too much because it's literally the 21st of December today. It's very close to Christmas, so opening up all these packages is like Christmas, well, every time I do it. Now, some of these in this little pile, which I hope to open up all in this video, are from August. And there are some more that are similarly old, so apologies. I think I apologize a lot. Maybe that's the Canadian in me, but anyways, let's get to it. So I'll move this stuff and we'll pick a package here, which actually I opened this one already because it didn't say mail call on it. It came from AliExpress or eBay or something like that in China. And it appears to be, well, what is this exactly? I think these are, well, I really should get the cutting mat. I'm gonna do this video with minimal editing. I normally edit all the time, so this is gonna be like real life here with all the mistakes and the usual silliness that I cut out in editing. But okay, here we go. So this knife has no blade. You know, it's funny. I took the blade out of this because it was, you know, very dull, and I went to go find. I knew I had a box of them, like a box full of them. I couldn't find it. So that knife isn't useful at the moment. So we'll put that over there so I don't use it. So we'll use the little ceramic blade that someone generously sent in. Okay, so it looks like what we have here are the membranes from NES controllers. So these are reproductions. Now, obviously, like I said, the package came from China somewhere, so I do not know about the quality of these. How good are they? But they're absolutely for controllers like this. Now, the funny thing about this particular controller is the case is an aftermarket reproduction, but the circuit board inside is an original one from an NES. And I had to modify the inside a little bit so it could fit that circuit board. The reason why I used the original circuit board was a very specific reason. The aftermarket controllers, the cheap NES clones like this, they seem to have the contact pads made out of, well, something that gets oxidized, and the buttons just stop working properly. While the original NES one has this sort of a black copper, or not copper, carbon looking coating that obviously works. I mean, these controllers came out, what, 1984, and they're still working perfectly. So yeah, that's really good quality. The case that the circuit board was in, that was in here, was actually damaged. Like some of the standoffs had broken, so it wasn't really staying together. But this case feels really cheap, but at least it does work properly. And with these reproduction buttons and stuff, it works great. But these should be good if I do have any NES controllers. And I do have a stash of them because I still have my original NES. And I can replace the button or the membranes. So if you have any experience with these, being good or bad, to refurbish your NES controller, please let me know. For now, I'm just gonna stick them in this bag again, or you know what? No, yes, I'll put them back in this bag for a rainy day when I need to fix another controller that's got a bad membrane. Because I have had that occasionally, where the rubber thing is kind of like starting to come apart inside the original NES controller, and that's all that's wrong with it. So thank you for whoever sent this in. I don't have a name on there, so I do appreciate it. Oh, and I can't put a link, but I'm sure if you just Google for NES controller rubber button things, you'll find these. All right, have a sip of my Christmas cocktail. It's sort of a coffee thing. It's got some vodka in there. Please drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive, all the usual stuff. I am an adult. I know how to operate heavy machinery while not drinking, that is. Alrighty, the next package here comes from Harry in Johnson City, Texas. I'm pretty sure that's where Harry is. Hi to all my viewers in Texas. Okie dokie, we have a letter. Let's see what this says. All right, Harry says, sorry for being so late. Here you go, all tested fine in the Retro Chip Tester 2. Have a great one. Big Daddy MRI. So Harry, I am not sure I completely remember what this is. I'm gonna have to go reference my emails. Harry is a patron though, so it's gotta be something he was sending me here. And what are these? All right, okay, so will the camera focus? No, it will not. Oh, there we go. So these are Motorola 6880s, or also known as the AT26. These are bus transceivers. which I'm pretty sure I needed for what exactly? It might have been for the TRS-80 Model 2, to be honest. That used these. Or no, actually, I think this was for the TRS-80 Model 3. That motherboard, oh right, that is right, okay. So if you've watched that repair video, the RAM that, if the motherboard was sitting here, the RAM sat up here in the top right corner, and it had some bus transceivers, which were these AT26s, to interface those back to the main CPU and the rest of the system. I didn't have any of these, and one of them was marginal. And the funny thing is, I desoldered it, and when I put it back in, it worked. So the heat of desoldering fixed it. Now, I have no idea if that motherboard still works. To be honest, I put it away, and I don't have an easy way to test it right now. But Harry sent me these so I can replace that potentially or probably dodgy chip to have something reliable. So that is awesome. Thank you very much for these, Harry. These are not super common anymore. I mean, I think you can get them on eBay, stuff like that. But Harry said that he had these and they were good to go, and he sent those over. So these will go into my stock. So thank you very much for those. All right, next up here, we have a package from Australia. It doesn't have an address or a from address or a name or anything like that on it, but I think I know who this is from. This is from some of my friends in Australia. We're on a retro chat together, and I think they've sent this to me, and I've had it for quite a long time. Sorry about that, guys, that I took so long to open this up. Dear Adrian, hope this finds you well. Warm regards from the Canberra retro community. Yes, the guys I talked to, including Mr. Lurch, if you haven't seen his channel, they're all in Canberra, which is in the Australian Capital Territory, ACT, which is where the capital of Australia is. It's sort of on the west coast-ish, not quite on the coast, it's inland a little bit. And they all live there and have a really wonderful retro community. And it looks like we have got some... And it looks like we have some magnets. All right, so, all right, I'm gonna mess this up, I'm sure. So in Canberra, the bus stops, these are bus shelters for bus stops, and they're famous in a way because they have a really cool, unique shape. I mean, these would not look out of place on Star Wars, like on in Mos Eisley or something like that. So it's pretty cool. If you look up Canberra bus stops, you'll find loads of pictures of these. So these look like fridge magnets, and here it is on the back. The beautiful bus shelters of Canberra. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Canberra? So that's pretty freaking awesome. I absolutely love fridge magnets. I have a ton on my fridge upstairs, to be honest. And thank you, Ken Barons. So Canberra, Ken Barons, it's a play on words. And yeah, I think there's some kind of thing going on here. I don't know the Aussie humor, but there it is. Thank you very much, guys. Everyone in Australia is incredibly friendly. I've only been to Melbourne and Victoria. I haven't had a chance to go to any other state or city in Australia. So I really, really hope to do that. So thank you very much, my friends in Australia. Alrighty, as usual, let's keep this train going. There's no from address on this envelope. Has been here for quite a while. I think since September. So apologies again about the slow opening of packages. Alrighty. All right, well, this appears to be Amazon. Oh, I guess this is not, that's why I had no from address. SD cards, wow, 256 gigabytes? That's shocking. Let's see if there's a gift receipt in here. And indeed, there is a gift note here. So Samir from Brampton, Ontario, Canada. Here's a couple high-speed, high-memory SD cards for your recording devices or whatever you want to use them for. Enjoy. Thank you very much, Samir. That is pretty damn amazing, to be honest. Yeah, in fact, I don't know what I'm using in this camera. Maybe a 60, maybe I think it's 128 gigs. But the other camera only has 32 gigs, and it does run out occasionally. So I'm putting one of these into the other camera. That's the one I normally shoot down onto the bench with. If I'm doing my videos and there's like a split screen going on where you see a top down plus different views and stuff, I use multiple cameras. So these will come in very handy. And these are the nice SanDisk Extreme Pros. In fact, I'm definitely sticking one of these into this camera, which is my Sony ZV-1 kind of main camera that I use for everything. I don't know what's in here. It doesn't really run out of space typically, but it's probably not as good a card as these. These are just good quality cards. And I have to say, I mean, knock on wood, fake wood, this is like plastic. I have not, luckily, ever lost footage. So that can happen. The camera can crash, corruption can happen, the battery can die, and you lose actual footage. And it's a huge problem. It's one thing if you're like shooting a movie and you could like reshoot a scene or something. I mean, that's one thing. But I'm working on electronics where like once it's fixed, it's fixed. Like there's no, it's not broken anymore if it's fixed. Like I can't just recreate that footage necessarily. So that hasn't happened to me luckily, but I do know that that does happen. So I'm very happy that Sony and Panasonic, who makes my other camera, they seem to be very robust, or they don't appear to lose footage. But using a high quality SD card is important, and both of these cameras use the full-size SD card, so I'll put that in the adapter. And you definitely want to have good quality cards, because cheap crap card that loses all your footage, that would be really upsetting. I would be pretty PO'd at that. In fact, I'm just going to grab my Panasonic here. Sorry, it's just connected to a bunch of wires here. So here it is. Oh, the card is not even in it. Card is in my card reader. So there it is. There's the card that I actually have in this camera. So it is a Samsung 32 gig Evo. Well, I mean, I haven't had problems with this particular card before, but a SanDisk 256 gig is way better. So yeah, this will be going into this camera, and it'll be going into that camera, both of these cameras. So Samir, thank you very much for those. Kind of like Christmas. I really appreciate it. Alrighty, next package. This one comes from, oh wait, I gotta check again. Robert in Heartland, Wisconsin. Hello to all my Wisconsin viewers. I can't say that I get stuff from Wisconsin very often. I think Wisconsin is a lot like Oregon. There's just not a huge population there. It's like I don't get stuff from Oregon very often, although it kind of makes sense, because if someone lives in the population center of Oregon, which is Portland, they would just give it to me in person. So we have some stuff, and we have a letter. Ooh, look at this. I can tell right away, these are Commodore 64 power switches. Super awesome, in a nice little case as well. Hi Adrian, enclosed are the C64 power switches I wrote you about. I've also included a couple of lumafix 64 boards. I'm not sure if you mentioned them in the past, but I have a few and thought they were an interesting fix for the jail bar issue. The S-video and composite signals from the C64 can become very noisy from the clock signal and color bleeding, causing jail bars on LCD screens. They were designed by a user on Lemon 64, and the boards can be bought from Osh Park. The trimmer pots are 2K, and he has some stuff about the things. I have plenty of Commodore parts, especially chips. If you need anything, just let me know, and I'll send it. Robert. That is really nice, Robert. So yeah, lumafix 64. I have mentioned these before. Boy, I always struggle to open these little bags. I heard from people that you have to slide them sideways, and that's a good way to do it. So I have reviewed these on the channel before, and I personally feel that these don't work. They kind of the gist of these is they introduce their own jail bars, and the idea is you turn the trim pots until it cancels out the jail bars of the VIC-2 chip. And what Robert was saying is the VIC-2 has jail bars because that chip is doing double duty, refreshing RAM and stuff like that. So it's not just a graphics chip, it's doing a little bit more, and it's actually worse in the 60 or the 128. It actually has 48 pins versus 40 because Commodore overloaded the capabilities of the VIC-2 with even more stuff on the 128. Anyways, I feel that these don't work well, and the reason why is because while they seem to fix the jail bars on some colors, on other colors it makes it worse. And that's because the jail bars aren't the same for every type of color on the VIC-2. And because of that, I feel that these don't really do anything. So my point is, while it can take away the jail bars on the blue background, they're gonna be there on the other colors. At least that's what I've found. And some VIC-2s are worse than others, and some 64s are worse than others. I have a bunch of videos about, oh dear, the heat's coming on. I forgot to push the button on my stream deck there to turn off the heat. So sorry about that. I made some videos on the RF modulators, things like that, on fixing the video quality on 64s. I'll link down below those videos. I think there's a couple of them. I think I mentioned the lumafix and how these just don't work. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. People will disagree. I know people have these and say, oh, they're great. But yeah, I've reviewed them. I have some that people have sent in for the 128, and the 64, and I feel they both don't work. So anyways, yeah, power switches. So Robert let me know about these, so this is great. I occasionally fix 64s that have bad power switches, so these will come in very handy. Now I did find on AliExpress a source for 64 power switches. I don't know how good they are. I don't know if these came from the same place, but I did end up buying some. So now I have plenty. I have probably more than enough for like the rest of my lifetime with 64s. But thank you very much, Robert, for sending these in. And yeah, sorry, the heat will turn off in a second. It has a time delay on it, so even when it comes on and the thermostat shuts off, it will still run for a while. And I have a button, which I will tilt up the camera right here. Can you even see it? No, because this is in the way. So there's a Stream Deck here, and this lets me control lights, so I can like turn lights off and on. So that's like the studio lights that are right here. Although, oh, there we go, turn it back on. And HVAC disable, and I can do some other stuff. And there's some other pages on here for like recording stuff, things like that. Anyhow, there we go. Robert, thank you very much for sending in these C64 parts. Awesome. All right, the next package here comes from Michael in Mesa, Arizona. And yeah, the heat should be off in just a moment. While we wait, I'll just have another sip of my drink. There we go, the furnace turned off. The reason why it's coming on so frequently is according to my Google Home, it is 28 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Very cold for Portland. We are about to have, it's December 21st, a big blizzard. Well, starting tomorrow, we're gonna have a blizzard. Temperatures are way below freezing, and yeah, it's gonna get cold. I happen to live in a very old house. Yes, I'm in the basement, so it stays warm down here, but upstairs, the walls don't have any insulation at all. So when it's freezing out like this, it's quite cold in the house, and my furnace, which is gas powered, well, electric, air handler, but gas heat, it runs a lot. So I turned it off with the button there, so it shouldn't come on anymore for this video. But when I'm done here tonight, I will need to turn that back on to make the house upstairs not be freezing. So anyhow, all right, I already forgot who this is from. This is Michael in Mesa, Arizona. Hi to all my Arizona viewers. I'm gonna have to cut this open with the label away from the camera. I am trying to figure out how to open this. I think there's a seam right here. There we go. All right, right away there's a note. A pirate's life for me. Hello, Adrian. Here's the TI Extended Basic cart. It was from the lot of 4 as-is TI99 machines I acquired. I have seen it come up on the TI99 startup screen a few times while testing. Most of the time the machine hangs and will not boot. Hope this works better for you than it did for me. I've also included a microsurgeon cart. Oh, that's a really good game. That's like one of the really coolest games on the TI, I gotta say. Microsurgeon cart that was full of rust when I got it. I know you already have that one, but I have no use for it, and maybe you can use the case for something. I don't have any other candy, and I can't really read that, other than, I think, new old stock vacuum tubes is sufficient tribute. So, okay, keep up the good work, Michael. All right, so yes, I think everyone might remember on the Super Mini Mail Call, we had the TI99 PEB, the peripheral expansion box. That's the thing with all the cards on it. And one of the things I couldn't really do on that is test the disk drive properly because I did not have an extended basic cartridge. Oh, look at this. Yeah, a new old stock vacuum tube. You know what? I have a little box full of vacuum tubes, and I've actually cataloged what I have, because if I ever need to replace a tube on a TV or something. Oh, look, this is one of these little tiny tubes that came much later. Yeah, so the tubes originally were much bigger, but then they tried to get really small so they could make tube-powered or tube, containing televisions and radios that were small. So I have a little 9-inch tube television. I think RCA makes it. It's got to be filled with these. This is made by ITT, and the part number is 6AL5. It looks like. And see here, ITT again on the box. And does it actually? Oh yeah, there it is. 6AL5. So 6, I think, means it's like a 6.3 volt filament. And yeah, so anyways, I don't know what this tube does. We'll have to look it up. But that little TV I've got is filled with these, because to fit tubes, I don't think there's any transistors in this thing. It's a 9-inch TV. It's very small, and yet it's tube-based. So these came by the end of the run for tubes. They tried to shrink them down as much as possible. So we have a couple carts. One was filled with rust, apparently, and the other one causes the computer to crash sometimes. So anyways, as I was saying, whoa, I can't, this has been vacuum sealed or Euro sealed or whatever that's called. So without the extended basic cartridge on the TI, you have very limited capabilities of using the disk drive. And that is one of the issues. So there it is, Microsurgeon. Yes, I think I do already have this cart, but that cart is rough. All right, well, let's try to open these up. I'm gonna reposition the camera. Let's open these up, and then I'll try to grab a TI. I'm pretty sure I have a TI floating around in the basement here, and we can test these out real quick. Alrighty, so this one actually opened really easily. This is the Microsurgeon. Yeah, that's a little rust there, but you know what? It's plastic, so it shouldn't be an issue. And to be honest, well, this PCB's in pretty rough shape. It's a good amount of corrosion on there, and I really don't know how well this is gonna work, but it may. Electronics are very resilient. So for this cart, which is the extended basic one, to open these, there are little clips, and oh, that one's already open. So you just use a flat blade, and you push the clip over to the side, and then it just pops open. It's pretty easy, actually. Let's see what we got in here. Oops. All right, 2 ROM chips, and are these GROMs? They are piggy banked. What? I am a bit confused. How does this work, actually? Are these 2 different part numbers? Alrighty, and after some searching, it's definitely not 214s. Someone has a picture of the extended basic there, and someone writes, that looks like extended basic based on the GROM part numbers. The stacked chips are 4XP GROMs. GROMs don't mind being stacked at all, as that is what is basically being done when they're spread out on the board. 2 ROM chips are configured by the bank switching logic in the 74LS74 and the 00, which is these 2 chips. Between them, they contain 12K of programming data, as the bank switch logic only switches the upper 4K. Part of the data that is greater than 6,000 is always present, and the data which is greater than 7,000 could be different depending on the routine being used and what chip it's in. So the TI GROMs, they're an interesting thing. These are GROM chips. Basically, I don't know what it stands for. I mean, obviously ROM is ROM, like we understand it, like these ROMs, but the G, these are like these little small packages, but I think they hold, is it 8K each or maybe 4K each? 4K each probably. And I think each one is like somehow addressable independently. I don't know. I don't really remember the details on it, but they're little. And while these don't normally look like ROM chips, these are absolutely ROM chips. And typically you wouldn't have these large mass GROMs. You'd have a bunch of these GROMs. And I guess, well, they're stacked, but they would just be stacked out on the board. Now this one is CD2114ANL DFX. I mean, oh yeah, that's right, CD2115CNL. So these have different part numbers, and I guess the ones underneath have different part numbers as well. So there is no way to replace these very easily, not that I'm aware of at least. So if this cartridge is indeed crashy or bad, and it's not these TTL logic chips, or it's not these ROM chips, which I could probably replace, then we're kind of stuck with a cartridge that doesn't work. And anyhow, so yeah, let me grab a TI and let's try both of these out, see if either of them work. Oh, incidentally, before I do that, I think these are GROMs as well. So notice how the traces are entirely in parallel. Basically, they are equivalent of stacked. I could take these 2 out and just stack them and it would work. So yeah, kind of interesting. The old GROMs. Okay. Alrighty, I think we are good to go. Let me just connect up the RetroTink to the VIC-20 cable, which I'm using here. Okay, move this out of the way. Here we go. Where is the video signal? Hello, video signal. We're not getting anything. Oh, there we go. Okay, it was just the DIN wasn't in all the way. Let me fix the camera. So we're a little closer. There we go. We have a functional machine, TI Basic. We don't have any cartridge in there. I am gonna grab, let's start with this cartridge here. This was Microsurgeon. So with both of these cartridges, the pins here are in pretty rough shape. Now, this isn't gold coated or anything like that. It's just this like kind of, I don't know what this is, solder or something. So what I like to do to clean these is I put a little Deoxit on them, and then I use a magic eraser. And that gets a lot of the gunk off there. See how dirty that is? Oh yeah, that is dirty. Now people say use a pencil eraser, and I'm sure that works great. I don't use pencils. I don't have any of those in the house, but this obviously works really well. Microfiber, or not microfiber, did I call it that? Magic eraser. They're pretty abrasive, not super abrasive, but you know, they're gently, mildly abrasive. And I think in combination with the Deoxit, it does a pretty good job. You get a nice amount of that crap off of there, plus the Deoxit coats it. Should do the trick. Okay. So let's see if we can get this in here. I'm not gonna have it in the case. There we go. No signal, that's normal. This is normal. Takes a while sometimes, or not. Let's see, my insulin pump is telling me I have high blood sugar. Yes, I had dinner. What is happening here? I think this cable is very dodgy. Let's try this again. Well, it's giving us a blank screen. Is my retro tank having issues here? What is happening here with this thing? These are the trials and tribulations of making videos. I don't think this is the cartridge that's causing this, because we're not even getting, it's not like a black screen, we're just getting no signal. I needed to use a different cable here. Okay, it's designed to be in black and white. Oh yeah, we're having some bad connection here. Let's use a different video cable. I think this cable here, this is an old VIC-20, not VIC-20, Apple IIc video cable, just like the one I had when I was a kid, but it's dodgy as. I don't know what's wrong with it, but every time I go to use it, it's not happy. Why do we have no color though? Let me change the modes on this. There we go. Maybe? Retro Tank, what are you doing to me? You're disappointing me. Okay, well just imagine it's in color. I don't know what's going on with it. Let's put this cartridge back in. Okay, it is back in. This is Microsurgeon. Okay, normal. There we go, Microsurgeon. So I think this is working. Look at that, it freaking works. Again, the color, the lack of color, has nothing to do with the TI. This entirely seems like a retro tank problem, and I don't know what's going on with it. Maybe I should power cycle it. Oh, I haven't done that in ages. It was in color a moment ago, wasn't it? Let's plug that in and out. See if that helps. Maybe, maybe not. There it is in color now. Look at that, it was glitched out. So yeah, Microsurgeon. I'm not gonna demo this game here, but I do recommend you check it out. They made ports of this on like a lot of computers. I mean, especially the ones that use the same video chip, like the ColecoVision, but there was also a port for the PC Junior, which is really quite good as well. And yeah, like you're like inside the human body here, and these are like body parts, and it's all pretty cool. I think it supports speech as well if you have the speech module. So that is cool. So yeah, Microsurgeon basically was left out to die in the rust, and it works. Let's try this, Extended Basic. Oh, I didn't do my old trick on this with the Deoxit, so let's start with that. Nice and crusty. Alrighty, let's pop that in there. Will you crash or will you work? Michael said crash is what he saw a lot of. Extended Basic. I've never used Extended Basic before. Okay, so maybe this is the problem. This is what he was saying would happen. Let's jiggle this around a little bit. I think unfortunately there's not too much I can do. If any TI experts are watching, then you can let me know what you think might be the problem here with this Extended Basic cartridge. Clearly, it's unhappy in some way. Are any of these chips hot? Nope. It's interesting that it detects it, so it shows it on the startup menu, but we get no life after that. I assume it should just go to a basic prompt pretty quickly, but we're getting absolutely nothing. I will pull this out, put it back in a little bit. I mean, the fact is it's showing Extended Basic. That implies to me that there's a fault on one of these chips here, and there's really nothing to be done because it could be the GROM. If it's the mask ROMs, I could fix that. I mean, it could be the TTL logic, I suppose. Well, okay, yeah. If anyone has any thoughts on what's wrong with this Extended Basic cartridge, please let me know. If these TTL logic chips go bad, I think there's an 04 and there's an 00, if those go bad, and that's for bank switching, does it cause this problem? If so, I can swap those out relatively easily. I'll have to desolder those and put new ones on. But yeah, I'm so unfamiliar with how this all works. So yeah, there we go. Thank you very much, Michael, for sending in the carts there. It's quite possible I'm getting another extended basic cart. So I might have to be honest, it might be in the pile of packages I have already. So there may be another one here for testing. So let me grab some more packages. Oh, actually, before I grab more packages, I have a couple letters here. I have a postcard right here. Look at this postcard. We'll take a look at that in a second. And then I have a letter here, which it says open soon. So I think this is Christmas related. Let me reposition the camera, top down view. Okay, so the postcard, look at that. Where is this? This looks really quite cool and modern, like in a 70s, 60s way. Palm trees though, so this is obviously a warm place. It's no snowy place like the northeast of the US or something like that. And definitely this postcard comes from Brazil, all the way from Brazil. We have Ricardo to thank for this postcard. Thank you for your videos. I think Ricardo says maybe I sent something better than this lone postcard. Cheers from Brazil. And let's see here. I mean, I'm not gonna try Portuguese here. That will just be an absolute disaster. But it looks like Bruno Giorgio's Methador and the National Congress. Look at that. I have never had the privilege of going to Brazil yet. Love to do that though. Look at that. Really cool. It's gonna have to go up on the fridge. Thank you very much, Ricardo, for that. And there we have this letter, has a paw print on the from address there in San Jose, California is the postmark 15th of December. So yes, this did just come in for the fact it said open soon. I'm going to oblige. And it looks like, oh, look, it must be from Garth. It must be from Garth. Yep, so, yeah, there it is. This is like a postcard. I love it. This is so cool. Sus. Garth. Garth is a longtime supporter and patron and everything. I got to meet Garth at VCF Midwest this recent was September, and it was absolutely great. This is like printed on a dot matrix printer. Season's greetings. I think this is actually like the letterhead, and then this was printed by like dot matrix here. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year from the Beagles. That is freaking awesome. I'll be sticking this up on the fireplace upstairs where I have other Christmas cards and stuff. Wow, thanks Garth, and yeah, thanks Ricardo for the 2 postcards. All right, we have another package here. I'm gonna not move the camera. This one comes from Mike in where exactly? Dover, New Hampshire. All right, hi to all my New Hampshire viewers. This one isn't as old. All right, here's the letter. I've been a longtime fan and subscriber, about 8 years. Thanks for all the great videos. While watching your TI PEB floppy drive video, you mentioned you don't have either a TI Extended Basic nor the disk management cartridge. I'm pretty sure I had duplicates of both, so I searched and found them. Like you, I'm a big retro hobbyist, so finding where some things are stored is indeed a challenge. Yes, I do my best. I put things in boxes and I write with Post-it notes on the outside so I can tell what they are. I don't just try to, I try to avoid throwing things in boxes without marking the box. Otherwise, yeah, then I'll never find it. Looking forward to your next TI video. Also, as everyone knows, you can't send Adrian anything without including some candy. Well, since I'm in New England, I think a good choice is some good old-fashioned maple syrup candy. Hope you enjoy, Mike. P.S. We have a group of us that get together weekly via Zoom and occasionally go on live YouTube under one of the group YouTube channels, Delusional Arcade. We call our live chats Delusional Roundtables. PPS, you recently mentioned needing to get back to covering SGIs. If you need any help or parts or software, let me know. I can probably help. I have Indigos, Indies, Indigo 2s, O2s, and Octanes, plus years of CDs. I actually bought an SGI myself new when I worked at UNH, that's the University of New Hampshire, and was able to get a discount. I love SGI. That is awesome. Thank you very much, Mike. So yeah, maple syrup candies. I think I mentioned on the channel before that I have, oh yeah, this smells delicious. I grew up, of course, in Montreal as a kid, and just like New Hampshire, maple syrup is big part of life. You learn about how it's made. You go see it made out in the country. It's in French, it's the cabane à sucre, and in English, it's sugaring off, is what it's called when you go with your school friends to go see how the maple syrup is made. So anyways, here we go. Extended Basic and the Disk Manager cartridge. So, wow, that's interesting, isn't it? Yellow and orange. So this was the one that's not working, and these are the two that are working. That's interesting. Can I use this Extended Basic to try to figure out what's wrong with this one? I don't know, actually. I think the first thing I need to do is I need to reinstall this one back in the cartridge here. So I'm going to do that before I forget. Getting these TI cartridges back together is always a little bit of a trick because there's this thing here to protect the contacts, but there we go. That's it, there we go. Let's just get that back together, there we go. So, okay, that's the one that's not working properly, and these are the two that are. So I'm gonna move the camera and get the TI back out. Let's test out these. Anyhow, as I was mentioning about the sugaring off, or the cabin in the woods where they make maple syrup, very typical, at least in Quebec where I'm from, it's very typical that you go on a school field trip and you can actually see how they pull the maple syrup out of the trees themselves. And let me find the cable for the TI here. And then, you know, taste it in the various stages of distilling. I guess that's what it's called, because, you know, it's actually a very light liquid at the beginning, and they have to kind of slowly make its way down to being thicker and thicker. And let me position the camera, there we go. Okay, so this computer is functional again. So let's put in the yellow TI cartridge. Anyhow, it was always fun as a kid to go see that stuff, because I mean, like, what kid doesn't like sweet stuff and candy made from it and all the other amazing things? Okay, Extended Basic. Aha. So it does take a little while there for it to come up. But obviously, we are working now. So I don't know any Extended Basic commands, but I mean, warning, no program present. Okay, so that's if you type list with the basic in there. I didn't have to pull the cartridge out. I could have just restarted it. And let's start here, and we type list. No, I can't see the screen yet. Come on! Why are you so slow? Why were you giving me a black screen? Really? I think this cable is just flaky here. That's what's going on. Or the retro tank is doing its stupid thing again. Let's pull the power out on this thing again. Let's see if that helps. There we go. Yeah, it's that dumb retro tank. It's just acting up lately. It's really annoying me. So you type list and it says can't do that. Just for fun, I'm putting the other Extended Basic cartridge in, this one, the one that wasn't working. And I want to see, maybe I didn't wait long enough for it to, you know, load up or whatever. So Extended Basic, no, the other one had loaded by now and it showed up down there. So yeah, something's up with this one. This one, on the other hand, works. So with the PEB, the peripheral expansion box has a floppy drive in it, and there's a drive controller, and that's weird. What is happening? Maybe this, no, I've never had any problems with this TI, even though it's got some missing keys. This machine has always worked perfectly. Weird. Okay, Extended Basic. So the PEB, there we go. So, yep, warning, no program present. So Extended Basic has way more capabilities than the built-in Basic. It's much faster, and I think, maybe I'm not sure, it can use the extended memory up to 32K that's either on the PEB or plugged in the side of the machine. In addition, though, there are like DOS commands, or like, I don't know about DIR, but disk directory, something like that, you know, so you can look at what's on the disk and stuff, or I misspelled that anyways, but that is sort of a necessity for running a lot of the disk-based software for the TI. It just doesn't work with the built-in Basic. You need the Extended Basic along with the disk drive interface, which is either in the PEB or a plug-in module on the side. So this will allow me to actually fully test that thing out. And then the Disk Basic 2 cartridge here, or Disk Manager 2, is just designed to help you like format disks, manage disks and stuff like that. And that didn't even show up. Why not? Maybe I didn't have it in all the way? Okay, there we go. Disk Manager, Diskette Manager, and Gestion de Disque. So I guess that's like Disk Manager again. So 2, and with the disk drive plugged in, 1982, this allows you to like format disks, read the directory, stuff like that. All things you can't really do very easily from the built-in Basic. I think Extended Basic has some of that capabilities, but not all. File commands, disk tests. So yeah, catalog, backup, modify, initialize new disks. So this would allow me to really get working with some of the disks. I made some disks in that video for the PEB, which I'll link below if you haven't seen it. And I couldn't really do anything because I downloaded some disk images and I wrote them on a real floppy disk. Without these cartridges, I wasn't able really to do anything, which kind of sucked. So these will finally allow me to really explore what's going on this machine. So Mike, thank you very much for sending these cartridges. And if I didn't say, Michael, also thank you for sending in the TI Extended Basic, which doesn't seem to work, and the microsurgery cartridge, which does appear to work. So I'll just need to kind of give this a nice thorough cleaning, and then I'll have a nice microsurgeon cart. I think I already have that game, but I could give this away to someone else, or as he said, maybe I can reuse this cartridge case for something else. All right, we're not quite done yet. We have a few more small packages I want to get through. So this one comes from David in Peyton, Colorado. Hi to all of my Colorado viewers. There we go. Let's see what we have here. I don't see a note immediately. What is this actually? It's very stuck in here. Couple ICs. Oh, okay. This is not a mail call item. This is something I actually bought. This is for the Amiga 1000. And this is the, oh boy, I don't even know how to pronounce this. It's in Portuguese, so it's funny, we had the postcard from Brazil. Parceiro 2. Basically, you add this to the side of your Amiga 1000, plugs into the expansion slot, and this adds a bunch of RAM, like 8 megabytes maybe, something like that. You have an SD card slot filled with software and a clock battery. So it kind of gives you a way to boot your system without having to use the internal floppy drive. And normally with the Amiga 1000, it doesn't have Kickstart, you gotta use a Kickstart disk. Well, with a couple mods to the machine, you install these PAL chips. This thing now can actually load the Kickstart directly and then boot the operating system. And it allows you to run Workbench 1.3 with the SD card. So that's pretty cool because you want to keep that like retro feel and everything. So this just really makes your whole system a lot more useful. Mr. Lurch made a video about this. That's how I first heard about it, to be honest. So I will put a link in the description below for that. I'll need to make a video about doing this mod myself, where I show this thing off with the modification and loading Kickstart and everything. And oh, look at that, Deoxit Gold. I think what this is, the idea here is you wipe the contact on the side of the machine. That's what the card plugs into. So this is a wipe with Deoxit. You know, I didn't even know this was a thing. Maybe I need to buy some of these? No, I probably don't need to, because I mean, Deoxit with just the little magic eraser like I was doing earlier. Here it is, magic eraser. It's gotta work similarly well to this. But that's pretty cool. I didn't know that that was a thing. It would be really cool if I was sponsored by these guys, because I certainly use Deoxit enough, don't I? It's really a good product. I've been very, very pleased about it. It's very expensive, you know, for what it is, but it is a good product. So anyways, that's what this is. This came from David. He makes these by hand. How much was this? I don't remember, $200 something. Not exactly cheap, but it's pretty much the coolest thing there is for the Amiga 1000. And it comes with this nice beige, I guess 3D printed case, or maybe it's injection molded because this doesn't look 3D printed. This looks super, super nice actually. So anyways, yes, best expansion there is. Okay, let me move on to another package. Move this out of the way. Actually, let me put this back in this anti-static bag here. I don't think this was even the one that it came in, but I'm going to reuse it because I don't want this thing getting zapped or something. All right, next up is this package, which I don't think is actually a mail call package. I think it's something I bought. So we'll open it anyways. I think this is a membrane for a ZX Spectrum or something like that. Yes, it is. Spectrum +2, I think it is. Do I remember the name of the shop I bought this from? I do not. But there they are. I think I got a couple of them. I have some ZX Spectrum 2s or toast racks or something, and the keyboards don't work. So you need these replacement membranes. Maybe there's just one in here. I thought I ordered multiple. Okay, there's at least 2 in here. Okay, so I ordered 2. I guess that's what I got. So anyhow, yes, it's nice that you can get modern replacements. This thing actually came from China, so I guess this is whatever the company was that makes this, manufactured this in China, and they have it drop shipped. So that's kind of cool, I guess. The company that makes this also makes a modern ZX Spectrum like reproduction. It's in the original case and everything. And I did order one of those from them as well, but they're quite back ordered. So it's gonna take a little while to come, but I think it's got HDMI on it. And well, the ZX Spectrum I have, the original Spectrum I have, which I bought in the UK on a visit there, works after fixing it, but the tape input is terrible on it. And I know there's like a SD loader or whatever for it, but I figured I'd just buy the reproduction Spectrum because it has that stuff built in. Like I can load it from an SD card, it's got HDMI, but it has the original form factor of the original machine, and I won't need to worry about loading those tape files like through my phone and not working. And anyhow, hopefully when I edit this, I'll find the link to that stuff and I'll put it in the description. But like I said, I paid for this stuff, so it's not like a sponsored thing or anything like that. And the next package here, it has a customs declaration on it. This is mail call because it does say mail call on it. I'm covering the customs declaration. I don't want to spoil what it is because if you just read it, you can often kind of get spoiled, and I don't want to do that. So let's see what this is. I'll have to open it off camera because there's looks like PII all over it. Here it is. Here's the stuff. Well, RGB fan from up here. And it looks like we have a Pico ATX power supply here, and the harness for the Pico ATX. And this is, well, this looks like you plug the Pico ATX or any ATX power supply into there, and look, it's got fuses and terminal blocks there, so you could screw it in and I don't know. Well, there's a letter. Oh, and there's a thing here full of wires and stuff. Let's see what the letter says. A couple letters. Oh, stickers, voltage stickers. Let's see what the letter says. His email address is on it, so I'm going to cover it. It comes from Alan, and he says, here's a little thing that helps power vintage computers with modern ATX power supplies. It breaks out the common voltages, has PC fan headers, ARGB, a temperature probe, etc., etc. Hopefully it can help you diagnosing motherboards, replace old broken PSUs to something less explosive. Please see project details and instructions on their GitHub page, ATX4VC. Hope you find it useful. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help. And his email address is there. Best regards, Alan. So let's just take a closer look at this again. So my assumption again is that something like the Pico ATX, this one doesn't seem to have a little notch thing on it, so you got to figure out which way it goes on. Is it this way or that way? There we go, that's the correct direction. There we go. So Pico ATX, 12 volt in right here. It generates the other voltages here with these DC-DC converters. This has some buttons here, so I'm assuming one of those is like a power button. It turns on the power supply, whatever it is it's connected. It could be a full-size one too. Then you have voltage outputs here. We have some fuses, that's excellent. Fan headers, USB Type-C. I don't know if it's like got power delivery or if that's just hooked up to 5 volts, probably just 5 volts. I don't really see any, well, there is an IC right there, so maybe that does power delivery negotiation. I don't know. Yeah, that's a pretty neat package. Now, these fans, by the way, I recently ended up with like 5 of these, and these are like the junkiest RGB fans I've ever seen. There's like a fan controller that these plug into. Does this even have, okay, this one's a little different than the ones I was used to. The ones I had just like one connector. This has 2 wires on it. The controller for this thing wasn't controlled by the computer. It had a little remote, which I didn't have. So when I powered them up, they were just red. But I looked online and it just has some simple patterns and stuff. So yeah, this up here, very inexpensive RGB fans. I will, of course, put a link to the GitHub page for this project. So if you have a need to get some various voltages, an ATX power supply is actually a really good way. And you know what? Old ATX power supplies are dirt common, like they're just everywhere. Old computers getting recycled constantly and they're just thrown away basically. So you get one of those and hook it up to something like this, and then you have an easy way to have nice, stable, and high current power supply. And the fuses will give you a little bit of protection from having like 30 amps of 5 volts or 3.3 volts or 12 volts. Yeah, so that is pretty cool. I know it's kind of crappy for me to record the screen like this, but this is the ATX4 VC project. And what's really quite cool about this actually is if you have something like I think like a Coleco Atom as an example, or well, I think the Atom's a good one. It needs a couple like negative voltages. And this thing can do that. So it gives you plus 12, plus 5, plus 3 to 3, which is not really useful for retro, but minus 5 and minus 12, all in one power supply. There are the addressable RGB headers. I'm not exactly sure what the point of that is. USB-C power output with firmware update capability. It says it can be used to replace retro power supplies and add cooling and lighting upgrades and test voltages and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, what's going on in this? So, oh, by the way, this comes from the UK. I didn't mention that, I don't think, when I opened it, but yeah, packages from the UK. So my RGB project, basically, it's a BBC Micro here in like a new case, or is this, I don't even know what kind of case this is, but it looks like a large case. That's the ATX4 VC power supply, and it's controlling the BBC Micros, well, it's powering it with those various voltage rails. It has floppy drive in here, and then of course this RGB stuff. So, okay, I could see what the RGB is useful for now. And here it is. This looks like an Osborne. Yeah, Osborne 1. Plus 12, plus 5. Freaking awesome. And because the Pico ATX, which you could buy those from like eBay or AliExpress, they just require a regular DC barrel jack, 12 volt input, nothing special, just like a regular wall wart. I mean, you probably have a drawer full of them. You can all of a sudden power up these kinds of computers. TRS-80 Model 3 would probably work with, as long as you have a beefy enough power supply. I recommend like a 4 or 6 amp 12 volt power supply for those. Yeah, this is quite useful. You just got to get creative with your mounting and you can make it work. Here it is. It's powering a Macintosh Plus, plus 12, plus 5, and minus 12 volts. Yeah, RGB to HDMI. That's so cool. That is really quite cool. I'm totally digging that. Question I have is, does it generate the minus voltages? Because not all ATX supplies have minus 5, or maybe some have minus 5 but no minus 12. I don't remember what the deal is. So is there like a DC to DC? It doesn't look like it, but there are a couple regulators on here, so I don't know. Okay, yeah, so 12 volts, 5 volts, 3.3, minus 5, minus 12. Shows how to connect them up, how to do it properly. You can label them. That was that sheet of labels that it came with. According to this picture here, it looks like it works with power supplies that give you minus 12 volts. It doesn't need the minus 5. I think it generates the minus 5 using one of these regulators here. You know what? That would be very helpful if this was more explicit about that, because I have ATX supplies that give minus 5 and minus 12, but that is less common, especially these days. And I don't know if all the ATX Pico ones do that, but certainly the full-size ones don't all do that. So please update this repository here to just be a little bit more explicit that it does not need the minus 5. It says it doesn't monitor, blah, blah, blah. It talks about the different fuses you can use, fan headers, of course. Oh, yeah, so there's a button on here, fan speed button, PWM. Well, I don't know if it uses PWM, but it can go from 0 to 100% and auto, so there must be a temperature sensor. Oh, and you can hook up a sensor, a temperature sensor probe. Freaking cool, and there's a fan curve, and then there's the addressable RGB. So yes, with this fan here, this cheapy fan, you can plug that in, and you plug it in, up to 100 LEDs are supported. Press the mode button, you can change the brightness and the color. Hold it down, okay, so that's interesting. USB Type-C, one of them is standby, so it's always running when the power supply is off. The other one is fused and it's switched. So yeah, pretty cool project. I wonder if you can buy these fully assembled. Let's see what's in the directory here. Yeah, firmware, PCB, so I'm sure these are the Gerbers. Yeah, schematics and stuff like that. So I don't know if you can buy these assembled. If you can, I'll put a link in the description below. I could see these being very usable for people who are trying to get old systems working where the original power supply is dead and you need those weird negative rails, and you need negative rails, which this thing can make. So yeah, pretty freaking awesome. Alan, thank you very much for saying that in. That's a cool little project. All right, I think that's everything on the bench. I kind of tried to put everything back together for like one final shot together, which also becomes the thumbnail. I want to thank everyone who sent stuff in for this mail call episode. I'll see if I can get it all right. It was Harry, it was Randall and the guys from Canberra in Australia. It was Simmer, there was Robert, Ricardo for the postcard, Michael P. from Mesa, Arizona. Then it was Mike, Garth, and Alan. I think that's everything here. If I forgot your name, I apologize. A huge thank you to everyone who sent in all this stuff. I want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, happy everything you celebrate for the end of the year. We're about to start 2023, which is absolutely wild to me. This year absolutely flew by, and opening up all these packages really feels like Christmas all the time. So I really, really appreciate it. It really warms my heart. So thank you very much, everyone. And I will see you next time.